Welcome back everyone to another one of Crow's programming lessons. Today we were going to go over input and creating equations using these data types that we learned last time. So let's get right into it. Okay, I'm going to right click, create a new class. Then I'm going to call it inputs for exercise 3. And we are going to create a main method. Alright, inputs, exercise 3. So first of all, what is an input? We've been doing system.out.println, and that is printing outputs onto the screen so that we can see them. But the computer needs to be able to input information. Some natural inputs that are common on all the traditional computers that we think of are mouse movements and being able to control something with a cursor, and the keyboard are most common inputs that we have. So we're going to be focusing on that keyboard input right now. In order to have an input, we need to have an ability to scan something in the console. So we are going to create a scanner. And so a scanner is a class that has already, so these are classes over here, but a scanner is a class that Java has already created. Here on oracle.com, you can see the Java docs, and you can actually import all of these into your program. So there's a ton of different things on here you guys can check out, and we'll be using a lot of these as we go. So we can declare what class we are about to create. So it's a scanner, and we're going to call it our input, and we're going to say it equals new instance, or one new scanner, and we're going to go over objects versus classes a little bit later. And you're going to do parentheses system.in. So we're going to get the system input. Okay, and then it is going to be called input. Now you are going to have an error there, and that is because we have to import some of those pre-made classes that are in Java. So in order to import something, you need to type in import, and you can see that that is what we call a keyword. And when it changes color, that tells you that it's a keyword. And it's going to be java.util.scanner. But what I want you guys to try doing is clicking on scanner and doing Control-Shift-O. And then that will bring you up a list of imports that you can choose from. Okay, and so java.util.scanner is the import that we are going to want. And then now this error turns into a warning saying the value of the local variable input is not used. So we're not using input, and input is not closed, which is not always 100% necessary, and early on it's not necessary. So now that we have our input, we can create a variable like we've done already in the past. We can say int number, for example, or num equals input.next int. And so next is telling you it wants to scan the next thing printed out on the console. So next int, open close parentheses, semicolon. And if we run this and we do system.out.print num, you will see very quickly that if we run this, nothing shows up on the console. If system.out.print num doesn't show up, because it has to expect a number that is put in there. So once we type in that number and push enter, it will print that number. But what we need to get used to is what we call prompting the user. So if someone came to the computer and there was just a blank line, they would have no idea that you needed to type in a number. They would just assume that it's a blank line and they wouldn't know what to do with it. And so you need to prompt the user and tell them what they need to do. You need to have some output that tells the user, type in any number. I can type in 19 and then int num, and it will print line. The number you typed in was plus num. Type in 50. The number you typed in was 50. Okay, now right now with how we're doing this, it might seem silly to just, oh, well, we have an input, we can type it in. But right now we're about to get into using these variables that we can input, and we can create a lot of different equations and help do some algorithms by plugging in these numbers very quickly. Let's do converting Fahrenheit to Celsius. Let's get rid of this for now. You can leave it if you'd like, but we'd need to type through that every single time. So we would need to first prompt the user, so sysout, enter a temperature to be converted from Fahrenheit to Celsius. Okay, and we can do, is it an int? No, it is a decimal, so we could do a float, but we're going to use a double because it's a little bit easier. F temp equals input.next, and it won't be an int, it'll be a double this time. And now we will use that ftemp to find rctemp equals. In order to convert that ftemp to ctemp, you have to do ftemp, which we haven't plugged in, minus 32 multiplied by 5.0 divided by 9. Now we can do sysout, and we can do the Fahrenheit temperature of plus ftemp plus equals plus ctemp in degrees Celsius. And with a parentheses and a semicolon, and let's check this out. Let's test this. Okay, make sure we got it right. Temperature, enter a temperature. Okay, so I know 32 degrees Fahrenheit is 0 degrees Celsius. So 32, the Fahrenheit temperature of 32 equals 0 in degrees Celsius. Perfect. Now, boiling for Fahrenheit, 212, is 100 degrees in degrees Celsius. It looks like we have it done right. Let's do one more of these conversions. Okay, so our last little exercise problem, and you guys are welcome to create these in different classes and have them all be exercise 3. Our next problem we're going to do is add up all of the change. So we're going to have a bunch of coins that we need to count and add up. And so this, we will be using multiple inputs. We'll also use multiple ways of manipulating these variables. So we can have an int pennies, and for now I'm just going to list off what all we're going to use. So int pennies, nickels, dimes, quarters, dollars. We are going to have a sysout, enter the number of pennies you have, and then I'm going to go ahead and just copy and paste this in between each one of these. And now we can just change pennies to nickels, dimes, quarters, and dollars. So then we can create an int total that will be pennies plus 5 times nickels plus, actually, order of operations say you don't even need to put these in quote or in parentheses. 25 times quarters plus 100 times dollars. So the total will take each one of these and multiply them and then add them all together. Okay, now if we look at the error that's going on right now, it is never initialized, so there's never even a value given to any of these. And so how can we, put these into practice if they have never been given a value? So int pennies equals input dot next int. So this can actually be repeated, and you can just copy and put it right next to all of these, because the next int is actually just scanning using our scanner that we have created called input, and scanning the next thing, the next input into the system, system.in, after you declare this pennies. So we say enter a number of pennies, and it says, well, we're going to set pennies equal to whatever the next input is, and then it waits, and it waits for the input. Then once the input is put in, it'll ask the next question, and then you enter it. Then it'll ask the next question, and we can just show it right here. You need to make sure that you print your total. So this out the total amount of money is plus total plus, make sure they are aware that they are in cents. Okay, so we are going to get the total number of cents. So put in some large, difficult numbers to calculate on your own. And looks like we have about $31.02. That should be correct. And so what we want to do, and you guys need to learn and practice doing this, is we need to be able to test this. Okay, so if I had 1 penny, 1 nickel, 1 dime, 1 quarter, and $1, we need to make sure $1.41 is how much I have is correct. So 1 plus 5 is 6, plus 10 is 16, plus 25 for the 1 quarter is 41, plus the dollar is 141. So $1.41. I challenge you guys to try to convert this int total into an actual dollar amount. Okay, you're going to need to switch the data type, and you're also going to need to use a little bit of problem solving and mathematics to create this from 141 cents into $1.41. And finally, you need to remember that if you do division of all integer values and are trying to convert it to a decimal, it will automatically round down to the nearest integer value. So you need to make sure there's a decimal within your equation as well. The Lesson 3 homework assignment has to deal with a projection of population based off the assumption of a consistent birth, death rate, and new immigrants into the country. So the real key here is to both be able to set a variable population and have it change from year 1 to year 2, year 3, year 4, and year 5. And also knowing that if you use integer values in division, the answer to that will truncate and turn into and stay an integer value. So they have an example right here. 5 divided by 4 will equal 1, not 1.25, because it just kind of chops off that remaining decimal. And so to get an accurate part of the fraction, you're going to need to use a double value or a decimal value in some part of the equation. So just know that. We'll go over this before we start the next lesson. Thanks for watching. If you guys enjoyed the video, please remember to like and subscribe. Until next time, thanks for watching. This is Crow's Programming Course signing off.